So welcome everybody to the next edition of the podcast. I wanted to bring on one of my fantastic students, Brianna. She's absolutely crushing it in the Chicago area, and she's specializing in specifically the commercial world of off-market properties using her company called Property Plug. So Brianna, thank you for coming on the show, my friend.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So listen, in this session, just wanted to kind of do a quick recap because you're absolutely doing amazing things out in Chicago. And I figured we'd share your story because I feel like a lot of people can relate. So I kind of wanted to rewind the clocks before you started doing everything that you're doing now with the off-market commercial deals. I wanted to know, before you got into real estate, what was like your first business venture?
Yeah, so my first business venture was, really it started like right out of school. I didn't finish high school and I just jumped into sales door to door. So it was it was like a 1099 type of deal. So it was like you were working for a company, but really like you were self-employed kind of. I was selling little bags of makeup. I sold TV and internet door to door, and I sold Yankee and Mets tickets, which was a lot of fun. Those sales skills kind of transferred over to real estate.
I mean, like, listen, like one thing I can definitely tell for sure is that you were a powerful woman. And I can imagine that kind of came from a lot of those sales jobs at the very beginning of your career here. Just because, like, listen, like it's not something that you see often, but I know that, like, listen, what you're doing out in Chicago is amazing. So I want to understand, like, what do you feel like correlates the most from what you learned in those sales jobs so that you can relate it into the real estate world?
The lead generation, just basically like calling and just like prospecting. Like that's the biggest thing. We used to talk to like 300 people a day when we were selling makeup, like little bags of makeup in the middle of Manhattan. So like you get turned down by so many people, you get ignored by a ton of people, and you're only looking for people to actually buy it to make money. So same thing with real estate.
Cool. So like you were like conditioned from day one that like, hey, like I'm gonna get a lot of no's, but it's not about the no's, it's just about the people who say yes.
Yeah, exactly. So like right now I'm hunting for one commercial buyer to buy one deal. Like it's not, you don't need 100 people to buy the deal. You need one person to buy the deal to make a decent amount of money.
So then why, like what took you from makeup per se to commercial real estate?
I can't follow the rules. So I always get, like, every job I've ever had, I got fired from. So that company I eventually got fired from. But from there, I opened my own marketing agency, which was like a digital marketing agency, building websites, doing Facebook ads, things like that. And that was pretty good. But I was like, I just wasn't really interested in it. I was more so doing that business to invest in real estate. And then I learned about wholesaling, and that's kind of how I started wholesaling residential real estate. And then I'm like, this is cool. I can obviously do this, but I want to make more money. So that's how I got into commercial, and that's how I met you.
Let's talk about like your first, like I guess the first steps you've taken in the commercial world to get you where you are now. So you got into the commercial real estate business a little while ago, and then I'd love to just understand like what was like the first few things that you did right off the bat.
So right off the bat, one of the first thing I did was I signed up for your mentorship. I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, like I want somebody to be able to be there if I have questions or anything specific. Like obviously you can try to figure it out on Facebook groups and things like that, but to have somebody be able to really answer a specific question that I have, and you know what you're doing. So that was the first thing I did. And then second thing I did was I just started prospecting to sellers, and now I'm prospecting to buyers and sellers every day, just kind of building up both databases. So, I can put the pieces together.
So like, let's talk about that. So like, why get into some type of mentorship, regardless of my program? But I'm saying like, why is mentorship or coaching? Like, why did you feel like that was so important for you?
It just felt like the smart thing to do. I mean, it's a good question. I knew that was like the best way, the fastest way to do it. I figured, residential is pretty, like, I have a good grasp on residential, but especially like with underwriting, just like small things. Like I just was like, may as well get somebody in your corner so they can answer your questions. Like all the guys in my office, like we all do residential. So they're like looking at me like I'm the one going out on my own, trying to like figure everything out. So
no, I love that. I mean, like, look, I'm the same way, right? Like I want to, not that I want to cut corners, but I want to do things as fast as possible. Everything that I've ever tried to get into, I talk to mentors and coaches. I'll hire people to teach me things so I can get basically results faster than normal. So I just love that was the first thing that came to your mind. So I can definitely respect that.
Yeah, I was watching your YouTube videos and I was like, shit, I may as well just like sign up for it. Like I'm going to be watching his videos. Like I should just get in his program. So
we appreciate it. And you've been fantastic in the program. And I've always appreciated all the questions and, your input on everything. So I want to talk about like sort of what you're doing now. You said you're doing a lot of prospecting. Talk to me about the prospecting you're doing, how you're pulling lists, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So right now, I pretty much just started. I went on CoStar. I pulled like the first thing I did was I pulled a list of, I picked like 3 counties that I'm really familiar with that I was doing a lot of residential in. So I pulled all the multifamily properties in those areas, and I'd like to target distressed sellers, but with commercial, like there's not a ton of people that are like on the watch list or in pre-foreclosure. So you got like 20 properties total for all these counties. So obviously that's not enough. So I pulled the first list that I hit was like if they've owned the property for 10 years or more. And I had a decent amount of success with those lists, like at least people that are interested, not that I've done a ton of deals with it, but people that are interested and open to hearing an offer. So that was that list. And then I basically am just making lowball offers to them, kind of like exactly what you say to do, make lowball offers, figure out where they're at on price. I'm trying to collect financial information so then I can put together, like a marketing package to be able to send to buyers. And as long as they give me permission to market it, I'm not getting a listing agreement signed right now, which may not be the right thing to do or whatever, a buyer. I'm not getting anything signed. I'm just like, hey, if I get you this price, will you sell it? They say yes. And I'm trying to.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, because I want to touch on a few of these points here so people who are watching can get the most out of this, right? So one of the main things you were saying is that you're pulling these lists from CoStar. Love that point. And you were saying how you wanted to layer some motivations into it. All right, we've talked about that a lot. And one of those things is people who have owned the property for more than 10 years, okay? Which I think is a fantastic piece of criteria. Is there any other layers of criteria that you've seen work?
That was the only one that I hit for that list. Another list that I hit was if they have a ARM loan, like I forget what it stands for, but like where
Adjustable
interest
rate. Adjustable
yeah,
rate.
that one. And then if they had a loan coming due in the next like year, I think I pulled that list too. So those were the three that I started with, but I wasn't like list stacking where it was like they have to have all these.
No, it's smart. I like what you're doing here. So I just want to reiterate again for everyone here. So one was they own the property for 10 years. Number two, I heard you say that they have an adjustable rate mortgage, which I think is very, very smart to pay attention to it. If they're in an ARM, which like hypothetically, that means that they'll have a specific rate for a period of time, like a 2-year interest only, and then they go into a higher interest rate loan at prime rate, or they might have a balloon payment in 5 years, like you were saying. And the last criteria, which is they have a loan coming due within the next 12 months, which again, these are all very, very smart things to start layering and stacking in these lists when you're pulling information so that you're really prospecting the people who are more likely to sell and not. Because you're not going to call somebody who's on a property for 12 months who bought the property last year or 2 years ago in 2021 when the interest rate was 2.5%. They're probably not going to sell it. Let's shift into what you were saying about the lowball offers, because I know we talk about making offers all the time, and then I want to talk about the contracts. Let's talk about the lowball offers. How are you underwriting the deals right now? Like, what are you specifically looking for?
Yeah. So in the beginning, what I was doing, and this is now that I have some experience in it, I was basically just underwriting it based on the cap rate. And I figured out that like I was getting a lot of, so I was just making offers, like trying to get like 10% cap rates. But now I'm also looking at the comps of the properties, like what things are selling, per door, like that's pretty important. So it's not because I was bringing these deals to buyers at like 10% cap rates and they weren't really super interested in it because they're telling me like that's way overpriced for the area. So in my mind, I thought that just because it was a 10 cap, like, oh, it's great, like somebody will buy it, but it's obviously also about the comps.
Again, wanted to point this out because I think this is really important for people to hear, right? So like when you're working with investors, just going based off of one specific piece of criteria, which in your case was the cap rate, only gives you a small look at what this deal really is all about. So it's like, just because it has a really high cap rate doesn't mean it's a fantastic deal, or just even like, but the one thing that I thought was interesting, like, because you and I have talked about this, is on the price per square foot basis or on a price per unit basis, depending on the type of asset class you're looking at, even if it is a lower cap rate, the deals can make a lot more sense because the value add upside is substantial. Because like if you're finding a multifamily, which, I think we've talked about like some 30 or 40 unit properties you've been talking to, if you got that at a 5 cap, but at the price per door is 50 cents on the dollar, what typically is trading right now, that's a fantastic deal, and every investor will fight over that. Versus a 10 cap, but the price per door is very overpriced. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like I would actually look at pretty much, obviously it depends on the location, because I know some areas near Chicago, a 10 cap is, I don't even know if people would touch it.
That's what I figured out. I'm like, oh shit. Like, yeah, I had sellers be like super interested at that price. And then I'm like trying to sell it. I'm cold calling everybody that bought a property in the area and nobody wants it. And I'm like, what the hell? So
two things I wanted to touch on mainly also, because I feel like, this would be good information for people to hear. I heard that Chicago is also cranking. They're really locking down on people for wholesaling. They're cracking down on people for wholesaling. I don't know if you saw the articles about that.
Yeah. When I first got into wholesaling, like literally that month is when they were like, you need to be licensed if you do more than 2 deals a year or whatever. So there's workarounds to everything. So I figured out a workaround like until I got my license, just to see if I was actually going to be able to wholesale properly. So I did that, and then I got my license, and now I got my managing broker broker license. So
yeah, and because the reason why I like to bring that up is because a lot of people ask about wholesaling deals, and what I've figured is that in the commercial world, it's like in my eyes, I'm like, this is about as close as you can possibly get to wholesaling when you're in the commercial world where you have a seller, you're negotiating the pricing so that the buyer gets the best deal, and you make 4, 5, or 6% commission, right? Like it's not a flat fee like we would you'd be used to in the wholesale world, but you basically work in a margin. So it's a very common way to kind of look at this through the eyes of a wholesaler or an investor, but still use it as a license, which I know that a lot of people have seen fruitful as someone like yourself. So let's dive into like the last piece here I also wanted to talk about, which is what do you see for like in the market out by you? And then like I want to talk about a little bit about business strategy.
the market by me, I mean, I always hear everybody complain about like taxes. I've never worked real estate in a different market, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but seems good to me. I mean, I don't know.
So talk to me what you're saying by the taxes.
The taxes are high. They go up a lot.
What percentage rate is it on the sales price? Or
That's a good question. I have no idea.
No.
I probably should know that, but I don't.
Yeah, I'm curious because like I know here in the state of New Jersey, we have very, very high real estate taxes, which we're talking like 2 to 5%.
I'm from New York, and I'm like, I don't even think I ever told you that, but I'm from New York and I'm in Chicago, so like I don't even know like the area like that. So we'll be talking about like some property, and it sounds like it's in the middle of nowhere. It sounds like it's in the middle of nowhere to me too, but this is right. So.
Well, look, I definitely wanted to shift to the business strategy piece. So like if you were going to talk to somebody who's just getting their license about getting into, the commercial world, what are like maybe like even like some advice that you give yourself on day one of your career, if you could rewind the clocks and talk to yourself, what would be like 3 pieces of advice you'd give yourself?
Everybody I talk to is like, oh, you should go under a bigger commercial firm and do it that way. But I just got my managing broker license. So I'm like, I'm not doing that. But what I have been doing is I've been connecting with brokers that, I mean, if I have an off market deal, like there's this one guy that I'm working an 80 unit in like a good area downtown in Chicago. And he was like one of the first brokers I met with. And he's showing me everything he would do to like work this deal and work this property, even though I'm not like on his team or anything. Like I'm just using the people in my network to learn from them. And he came on an appointment with me, so I dragged him there at like 7 a.m. and working with like not trying to figure everything out on your own. That's why I signed up under you and just like trying to learn from other people.
Beautiful. So I guess we'll take that as one point. I'm curious if you have anything else, right?
Yeah. So that's one point. I think that right now what I'm doing, it makes a lot of sense. Like every day for however much time I have in the day, like today I'll probably cold call buyers for like 2 hours and then cold call sellers for 2 hours. In the maybe 3 months or so I've been doing this, I already have like 300 buyers on my list. I know you don't need that many buyers, but like I want to be able to have a good buyers base. So when I do get a property, like I can just blast it out and have people that are actually going to be interested instead of like not having anybody for it.
And then any other last minute points for anyone else?
No, I mean, not just like, I guess the biggest, like for me too, like I'm just not scared to mess up. Like I have no problem making offers on properties that are too high or too low and getting yelled at or whatever, sending LOIs out. Like I have no issue with it at all.
So I want to recap on these points because I think they're smart, right? Number one, find a mentor and or someone who can help you guide you through these so you don't make mistakes. Number two, I heard you say just basically cold call like crazy, right? Like go at it, make a lot of phone calls. Don't be fearful of that. And the third one is you can step in the face of rejection like all day long. And it's like just knowing that, at the end of the day, if you're putting in the work, the time, energy, and effort, you're going to win. You're going to succeed over time. So I love those 3 points. Those are really the points I got. So last thing I want to do to wrap things up here is just because, you've been, wonderful in all the trainings. And I just want to, for someone who's watching this content, what would you say to somebody who's thinking about investing in themselves, but it's possibly on the fence, right? Like there's someone who's like, they're thinking about like, investing in coaching or mentorship. Like, why did you feel like you took the leap?
Can't be scared. I mean, they say scared money doesn't make any money, right? So it's like, what? Like, I don't remember how much it was up front, but like, why not? You make that from small ass deal, you'll make your money back in no time. So instead of like sitting around and not knowing, like I just like to do things and just know that I did it and that's it, move on instead of like sitting around waiting. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, look, scare money makes no money. I like what you said there. I agree. I couldn't agree with you more. Well, listen, Brandon, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it so much for you sharing your story. And for those of you who are watching, again, you can reach out to Brianna if you have any deals out in Chicago. She's got a lot of connections out there. So, Brianna, how can someone get in touch with you if they have a deal for you?
Yeah, so our website is theproperty-plug.com and my cell phone number is 773-812-1988.
Cool. You heard her loud and clear. Again, if you have any great deals or opportunities out in Chicago, please give her a ring. Other than that, guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
If you're still watching this video, that means to me that you're a committed real estate agent and you're looking to take your life and business to the next level. I'm just curious, why have you yet to schedule your free, no obligation coaching consultation? All you have to do is simply go in the description down below, and people are telling me this call has been the most unbelievable, the most powerful call they've had in their entire career. And here's just a few of the individuals who have taken full advantage of this call. And my mission is to support as many realtors as possible, build a 6- and 7-figure net income business so that they don't have to rely on this industry anymore for their everyday income. If you're a committed realtor, which I can see like you are, all you have to simply do to take full advantage of this free coaching consultation is to go in the description down below and schedule your free call now.